The underground base on planet Vora was cold and silent. Only the hum of machines and the sound of boots echoed through the halls. The base had many rooms, but there was one room that no one liked to visit. It was deep below the main level, behind heavy metal doors and guarded day and night. Inside that room was a glass cage, and inside the cage sat a giant alien woman. She was not like anything the humans had seen before. Her skin was smooth and blue like the sky before night. Her silver eyes never blinked. Her hair was long and dark. She sat with her knees up and her arms around her legs. She never spoke. She never screamed. She just watched, quiet and still. The humans had captured her during a patrol near the mountains. The science team said she was dangerous. She was too big, too strong, and not human. So they locked her in the cage and kept her hidden from most of the base. They gave her no name. They called her Subject V13. Everyone was afraid of her. Some said she had killed other creatures with one hand. Some said she could crush a tank with her foot. But the truth was, no one had seen her fight. She never tried to break the glass. She never made any threat. She just sat there, day after day. Silent Tom was not a soldier or a scientist. He was a young worker who cleaned the storage rooms. He had short brown hair and always wore a simple gray uniform. He followed rules and stayed quiet. But one day, his task took him near the lower level. He walked past the guards and looked through the thick glass window. That was the first time he saw her. She did not look like a monster to him. She looked tired. Her eyes were open, but they looked empty. Her hands rested on her knees. Her lips were dry. A plate with old food sat untouched in the corner. The food was hard and dry, not meant for anyone to enjoy. It looked like it had not been changed in days. Tom asked the guard nearby, "Has she eaten anything?" The guard frowned. "She hasn't touched a thing since we caught her." "Why don't you give her fresh food?" Tom asked. "She's not one of us," the guard replied. "She's an alien. Let her starve. Less trouble that way." Tom said nothing, but inside, he felt something twist in his chest. She looked thin. Her eyes were not full of hate. They were full of hunger and sadness. He had never seen such a large being before, but he also had never seen such quiet pain in someone's face. That night, Tom could not sleep. He thought about the alien Giantess in the glass cage. She was alone, locked away, and no one cared. Not even the high officers. They saw her as a thing, not a person. But Tom could not look away from what he had seen. He did not understand her, but he felt that she did not deserve this. The next day, Tom came early to the kitchen hall. He took a piece of fresh bread and poured clean water into a metal cup. He hid them in his work box and went back to the lower level. He looked around. No one was watching. The guard was gone for a short break. Tom walked slowly to the glass cage. The Giantess was sitting in the same spot. Her head was down. Her eyes were half closed. He pushed the food tray through the small slot at the bottom of the cage. It was made for scanning tools, but just wide enough for a tray. The tray slid across the floor and stopped near her foot. The Giantess opened her eyes. She saw the bread. She looked up. Her silver eyes met his. For a moment, neither moved. Then, slowly, she reached forward. Her hand was large and strong, but she moved with care. She took the bread and held it like it was something precious. She sniffed it once. Then she took a small bite. She chewed slowly, her eyes still on Tom. Then something strange happened. Her lips moved, not to speak, but to smile. It was a soft, warm smile. A smile that showed thanks. A smile that said she had not given up hope. Tom stood frozen. He did not expect this smile. He did not expect her to look at him like that. It was not the look of a beast. It was the look of someone who had been alone for too long. He gave a small nod and whispered, "You're welcome." He knew she could not understand his words, but maybe she could feel the kindness in his voice. From that day on, Tom came every night. He brought fresh food and water, sometimes fruit, sometimes warm soup. The Giantess, who he now called Mira in his mind, always waited for him. She never spoke, but she always smiled. She began to hum soft notes when she ate, like a song without Words Tom never told anyone. He knew the officers would not understand. They would think he was crazy or dangerous, but he did not care. He saw something in her that no one else did. She was not just a giant alien in a cage. She was a person who had been forgotten by the world around her. And without knowing it, Tom had just made the most important choice of his life. Tom walked through the hallway with quiet steps. The light above flickered as he passed. He carried a small box in his hands. Inside was a soft piece of fresh bread, an apple, and clean water. His heart beat faster each time he came near the lower level. The guards were often bored and sleepy at night, but if they caught him, there would be questions, and Tom had no answers that the officers would accept. He reached the hallway near the glass room and paused. He looked left and right. The camera in the corner blinked, but he knew when it turned away for 10 seconds. He waited, then moved. Tom slid the tray under the glass slot and took a step back. The alien Giantess, whom he now called Mira, sat in her usual place, but this time, she moved faster when she saw the tray. She picked up the bread and looked at Tom. Her silver eyes watched him carefully. Tom smiled. He gave a small wave. Mira tilted her head, then nodded slowly. She ate without fear now. She used both hands. Her long fingers held the apple with great care. She never wasted a single bite. After drinking the water, she placed the cup down near the wall. She looked at Tom again and tapped her chest once with her hand. Tom pointed at himself and said quietly, "Tom." She repeated the motion, but no sound came. Then she touched her chest again. Tom looked surprised. "Mira," he said softly. The Giantess blinked, then touched her chest again. Tom smiled. "Mira it is." Every night, Tom returned. He changed. The food, he brought fruit and sometimes a bit of cooked rice or boiled vegetables. Mira never refused. She never looked angry. She waited for him like a friend waits for a friend. Some nights, she sat closer to the glass, her head resting on her arm, watching Tom as he spoke softly about the sky or music or how quiet the planet was. She did not understand his words, but she listened. Sometimes, Mira would hum. Her voice was deep and soft. It made the air feel calm. One night, Tom brought a music player and let her hear a gentle tune. Her eyes lit up. She hummed along as if she knew the melody. Tom began to feel something strange in his heart. It was not fear. It was not duty. It was a bond. She was not just a creature in a cage anymore. She was a being who shared silence and kindness with him. She was different, but not dangerous. Big, but not cruel. One day, while Tom was placing food, he did not notice a figure watching from behind a corner. Officer Bryn stood with his arms crossed, eyes cold and sharp. He had been watching the camera recordings and grew suspicious of Tom's nightly visits. Now he saw the truth with his own eyes. Later that day, Tom was called into the command room. Bryn stood beside the commander, his face tight with anger. "What do you think you're doing with Subject V13? Bryn asked. Tom stood still. "I was giving her food. She hasn't eaten in days." Bryn slammed his hand on the table. "She is not human. She doesn't deserve kindness. Do you understand what you've done? You've created a link with something that could kill us all." Tom looked straight at him. "She hasn't hurt anyone. She eats. She listens. She even smiles. She is a beast." Bryn shouted. "You're blinded by pity." The commander raised a hand. "Enough. From this day, no one goes near the glass room without my order. The slot will be sealed. Food service will stop. If she doesn't eat, that's her problem." Tom opened his mouth, but the commander pointed at the door. "You're dismissed." That night, the cage room was dark and silent. Tom stood outside the sealed door. He could not go in. The slot was covered with metal. Cameras had been placed in every corner. The hallway was watched closely now. Inside the cage, Mira sat alone again. No music, no voice, no warm food. Her hands rested on her lap. Her head was low. Her silver eyes looked toward the door. But no tray came, no bread, no water, no Tom. Days passed. Tom tried to speak with the commander again. He even went to the base doctor and asked if they knew Mira's health condition. No one cared. No one listened. She's just a study project. Bryn said, let her fade. Tom could not take it anymore. One night, he returned with a new plan. He studied the vents of the base. Some were narrow, but one line led straight to the lower level. It was rarely used and not watched by cameras. Tom crawled through the vent with a pack on his back. Inside was bread, water, and a small music player. His arms got scratched, dust filled his mouth, but he kept moving. After a long crawl, he reached the grate above the cage room. Carefully, he removed it and dropped down into the dark corner. Mira looked up fast. At first, she did not believe it was real. Then she stood slowly and came closer. Tom stepped out and placed the tray near her side of the glass. He turned on. The music, the soft tune filled the space. Mira's face changed. Her eyes filled with light again. She took the bread and held it close. Then, without a sound, she placed her hand gently on the glass. Tom placed his hand on the other side. No words were needed. Something deep and powerful passed between them. Not fear, not science, not control, but trust. At night, Tom stayed a little longer, sitting near the wall while Mira hummed a soft song. It was the same one from before, but now it carried new warmth, a song of hope in a world that had forgotten how to care. Tom tried to stay quiet after his visit through the vent. He returned to his normal work during the day and cleaned the storage rooms like always. But inside his heart, he was worried. Every time he looked at a camera, every time a soldier passed by, he wondered if they had found out. Mira had looked stronger after eating again. Her eyes were brighter. Her movements were no longer weak. She even started to hum softly when Tom came near the glass. But danger was close. Officer Bryn was not the kind of man who let things go easily. Late one evening, as Tom left the kitchen with a hidden tray of food, he was stopped near the hallway. Going somewhere? Bryn asked, stepping from the shadows. Tom froze. His hands tightened around the tray. He said nothing. Bryn smiled without warmth. You really thought no one would notice? The cameras in the food hall. The vent cover left a bit loose, the music sound echoing through the pipes. We hear everything. Tom looked at the floor. His mind raced, but there was no excuse he could make now. You broke direct orders, Bryn said. You brought food to a dangerous alien. You made contact. You shared things with her. She's not dangerous, Tom said quietly. She hasn't hurt anyone. She just wanted food and peace. She is not like us, Bryn snapped. We don't feed monsters. We study them. We control them. And if needed, we destroy them. She's not a monster, Tom said, louder this time. You never looked at her. You never listened. Bryn grabbed Tom by the arm and pulled him toward the commander's office. The hall was cold and silent when they entered. The commander stood with his hands behind his back. His face was serious. We have full video proof, the commander said. You entered the cage area by crawling through a restricted vent. You broke the seal we placed on the food slot. You made contact with subject V13. Tom stayed calm. Yes, I did. I brought her food because she was starving. I sat near her because she was lonely. She's not our enemy. She is not our friend either. The commander said. Bryn stepped forward. We need to take control now. I suggest full isolation. No food, no water, no light, no sound. She'll weaken in a few days, and then we can move her to the lab without risk. Tom's heart dropped. You can't treat her like that. She trusts us now. If you do this, she'll lose all hope. The commander looked at Bryn, then at Tom. You are suspended from all work for 1 week. If you come near the lower level again, you will be arrested. Guards will be placed around the cage full-time. She will receive no more contact. Dismissed. Tom left the room slowly. His hands were shaking, not from fear but from sadness and anger. He had tried to help. He had tried to show kindness, and now they would punish Mira for it. That night, the guards sealed the vent Tom had used. Metal bolts covered every access point. Cameras were added to the hallway. 2 soldiers now stood by the cage door at all times. Inside the cage, Mira sat quietly. She waited for the sound of soft music. She waited for the kind voice. She waited for bread and water. But nothing came. Her eyes looked toward the door. But no one came. She sat. For hours. Then days. Her body began to weaken again. Her hands rested on her knees. Her head leaned against the glass. The light in her silver eyes slowly faded. She did not hum. She did not move. She did not understand why the kindness stopped. In his small room, Tom sat by the wall, thinking deeply. He could not sleep. He could not eat. Every hour that passed, he saw Mira's face in his mind. Her quiet smile, her careful hands, her soft voice, and now her silence. He tried to send a message to the medical officer. No reply. He tried to speak to a few other workers, but no one dared to help. Fear ruled the base. 3 days passed. Tom made a decision. He took a notebook and began to write down everything. What Mira looked like, how she reacted to food, how she smiled, how she listened, how she never showed anger or violence. He wrote about the first night he fed her, about the music, about the songs, about the way she touched the glass with her hand. Then he made a copy and slipped it under the door of the science hall. Maybe someone would read it. Maybe someone would understand. But Tom was not finished. That night, he watched the guards from a distance. He studied their patterns. One of them took a break every 4 hours. The other one sometimes stepped aside to call his officer. Tom knew he would not get another chance. He packed food again. Soft bread, boiled vegetables, water, and the music player. When the guard turned for just a moment, Tom moved. He ran down the hall, reached the door, and shouted, "Mira," inside the glass cage. The Giantess raised her head slowly. She saw him dot in. A burst of strength. She stood. The guard turned back, saw Tom, and called for help. Tom pushed the tray under the metal slot. It barely fit through the edge where the cover was loose. Mira bent down and grabbed it fast. She looked at him and smiled weakly. Alarms began to ring. Soldiers shouted. Tom stood his ground. "Don't hurt her," he yelled. She didn't do anything wrong. One of the soldiers pointed his stun weapon. A bright spark hit the wall behind Tom. Smoke filled the air. Mira stepped forward and slammed her hand on the glass. A crack appeared. Another strike. The wall shook. She hit it again. The glass broke. Shards flew across the room. Mira stepped out, her full height towering over everyone. The soldiers screamed. Some ran. Others raised their weapons. But Mira did not attack. She bent down and picked up Tom gently, placing him behind her. She looked at the soldiers. She said nothing, but her message was clear. She would protect the one who fed her. The sound of the broken glass echoed through the base. Every step the Giantess took shook the floor. Red lights flashed. Alarms screamed. Soldiers ran toward the cage room with weapons ready. Mira stood tall in front of Tom. Her wide shoulders rose and fell with slow breaths. She was not angry. She was not wild. She was calm. Her body blocked the hallway. Her arms were spread slightly, as if to shield Tom from every direction. Tom stood behind her, shaking but not afraid of her. He looked up and said, "Mira, don't fight. They don't understand. Please don't hurt them." Mira turned her head slightly and nodded once. She understood. She didn't want war. She only wanted freedom and safety. 3 soldiers rushed into the room and pointed their stun guns. One shouted, "Step away from the human." Mira didn't move. Another shouted, "Fire now." But before they could shoot, she raised both hands slowly. She opened her palms and stepped back, showing she had no weapon. Her eyes were soft, not full of hate. The soldiers hesitated. Tom stepped forward and yelled, "Stop. She's not attacking. She saved me. She could have crushed me, but she didn't." One soldier lowered his weapon a little. The others did in single quotes. Then Officer Bryn arrived. He walked in fast, his face red with anger. "Stand aside," he shouted. "Shoot her now." "No," Tom shouted back. "She's not the enemy." Bryn ignored him. He grabbed a weapon from one of the soldiers and aimed straight at Mira's chest. "You don't give orders here, boy." He pulled the trigger, But Mira moved fast. She turned and blocked the shot with her arm. The blast burned her skin, but she did not cry out. She only reached down, grabbed Tom gently, and ran down the hall. Walls shook as she passed. Lights flickered. The floor cracked under her weight. She didn't run toward the exit. She ran deeper toward the lowest part of the base. No one followed. They were too shocked, too confused, and too afraid. Tom held onto her arm tightly. "Where are we going?" he shouted. Mira didn't answer, but her steps had purpose. She remembered the paths. She had listened and watched during her time in the cage. Now she moved through the halls like she knew exactly where to go. They reached an old tunnel door with warning signs. Mira used her strength to pull it open. Dust fell from the ceiling. Inside was a dark tunnel, long and wide, unused for many years. Pipes ran along the top. Old lights blinked weakly. This part of the base was forgotten. Mira placed Tom on the ground and sat near the wall. Her arm still burned from the shot, but she didn't complain. She looked at Tom, then touched the ground with her hand. A soft glow came from her skin. Symbols appeared on the floor. They formed shapes like a map. Tom watched with wide eyes. "What is that?" Mira pointed at one shape. It looked like a large star with a mark over it. Then she pointed to another shape far from it. She placed her hand on her chest, then on the first shape. Then she touched Tom's chest and pointed to the second shape. Tom understood. "You're from there," he said. "Far away, and I'm from here." Mira nodded. Then she moved her hand in circles and touched her wrist. She was showing time. Then she made a braking motion. Her eyes lowered. Tom's heart sank. "You're home. It's gone." She nodded again. Tom sat beside her in silence. He couldn't imagine the pain she carried. Her world destroyed. Her people gone. And now she was trapped, hunted, alone on a strange planet. Mira looked at him and touched her own chest. She said nothing, but her eyes spoke clearly. She was not a soldier, not a killer, not a threat. She was something else, a singer, a healer, a soul who had lost everything but still held on. Tom took out the music player from his pocket. He turned it on. A soft tune played in the quiet tunnel. Mira closed her eyes. A small smile came to her face. She began to hum with the melody. It was a peaceful sound. It filled the cold tunnel with warmth. Back at the base, Bryn was furious. He shouted at the guards and blamed everyone for the escape. "She must be stopped," he shouted. "She's trying to destroy the base. This is a threat to all of us." But not everyone agreed now. Some guards had seen her protect Tom. Others had seen her stand down. A few had even watched the video clips and noticed her soft nature. Questions started to spread. Why didn't she attack? Why did she run instead of fight? Why did she shield the human? Bryn didn't care. He ordered drones to scan the tunnels. Soldiers were told to prepare for capture or even destruction. But Tom had another plan. He looked at Mira. "We can't stay here. They'll come for you." Mira looked at the map she had drawn again. She pointed to one corner, a tunnel that led outside. Tom nodded. "If we reach the surface, maybe we can find help." Mira stood. Her large form stretched under the tunnel roof. She bent down and picked up Tom carefully, placing him on her shoulder. Then she began to walk through the dark passage. Every step echoed like thunder. But her face stayed calm. Her heart was strong. She had found a friend. She had found someone who looked past fear and saw her as more than a cage and a label. Now, together, they would try to find the light. The tunnel grew narrower as Mira walked slowly, carrying Tom on her broad shoulder. The air smelled damp and cold, but Tom did not feel afraid anymore. He looked around at the old walls, pipes twisted and turned, some broken and leaking water. Faint light came from old bulbs overhead. Mira stopped at a wider space where the tunnel opened to a small room. Dust floated in the air. On the far wall, Mira pressed her hand flat against it. A soft blue light shone from her skin. Shapes appeared, lines, circles, and stars glowing on the wall. Tom gasped. "Is this a map?" Mira nodded, her silver eyes focused on the shapes. She moved her fingers over the map, pointing to a distant star cluster far from where they stood. Then she touched a smaller circle closer to the base. Tom watched carefully. He saw something strange. Mira's fingers moved to show many paths, some with broken lines, some with bright spots. She pointed to the farthest star, then touched her chest. Tom understood. That's your home. Mira nodded again. She touched her wrist and made a slow, breaking motion. Tom's heart tightened. He whispered, Your home is destroyed. Mira's face darkened with sadness. She did not speak. But Tom saw her pain clearly. She had lost her family, her people, and the world she once knew. Then Mira touched the wall again. New shapes appeared. Faces, creatures, plant images from her past. She made soft sounds, humming like a song. Tom listened closely. Her voice was soft, full of emotion. She touched her throat and pointed to the images. Tom realized she was trying to tell him who she was. She was not a fighter or a warrior. She was a healer, a singer, a guardian of life. Tom sat quietly, feeling honored that she trusted him with her story. Suddenly, the door to the tunnel creaked. Tom looked up quickly. Soldiers appeared at the entrance, their weapons raised. One shouted, There they are! Don't let them escape. Mira stood fast, holding Tom close. She did not want to fight, but she was ready to protect her friend. Tom raised his hands. Wait, listen. She's not your enemy. The soldiers hesitated. They looked at Mira's calm face. They saw how gently she held Tom. They saw no sign of attack. One soldier stepped forward. Commander Bryn says she must be captured, but maybe we should listen first. Tom nodded. Please, give us a moment. She wants to show you something. Mira stepped closer to the wall and touched the glowing map again. The soldiers lowered their weapons slowly. Curiosity replaced fear. Tom spoke. She lost her home. She is alone here, but she is not dangerous. She is kind. One officer asked, Why did she not fight when she escaped the cage? Tom answered, Because she does not want war. She only wants to live. The commander arrived soon after. He looked at Mira and the glowing wall. He frowned deeply. If what you say is true, then we have treated her unfairly. Bryn was silent for a moment. Then he said, We thought she was a threat, but maybe we were wrong. Tom looked at Mira's silver eyes. They shone with hope for the first time in many days. The commander made a decision. We will stop the attacks. Mira will. Come with us. We will learn from her. Mira nodded slowly. She reached out and gently touched Tom's hand. Tom smiled. He knew this was only the beginning, but it was a good start. Together, they walked back toward the base, not as prisoner and guard, but as friends with a shared future. Mira walked slowly beside Tom as they moved back toward the main base. The soldiers who had guarded her before watched quietly. Some still looked unsure. They had never seen an alien like Mira before. They did not know what to expect. The commander met them near the entrance. His face was serious but calm. Mira, he said, we will give you a chance to live here safely. Mira looked up and nodded. She touched her chest, then pointed to Tom. Friend, she said softly. Tom smiled and stepped forward. She saved me when she escaped. She only wants peace, Bryn. The officer who had ordered her isolation stood behind the commander. His eyes burned with anger. She escaped on purpose, he said. She is a danger. She must be controlled. The commander turned to Bryn. We will observe her. No harm will come to her. But if she shows signs of danger, we will act. Bryn's jaw tightened. But he said nothing. Mira was taken to a large room inside the base. It was not a cage anymore, but a place where she could move freely. The walls were high, and the ceiling was wide enough for her tall form. Soft lights shone, and comfortable mats were placed on the floor. Tom stayed near her. He gave her food and water. Mira accepted without fear. Days passed. Mira learned to understand the humans better. She watched their movements, their speech, and their tools. She hummed songs that made the workers feel calm. Her voice was deep and full of warmth. One day, the base's doctor came to see her. He was a kind man named Paul. He asked many questions, but Mira only smiled and hummed softly. Paul could see her gentle nature. Tom showed the commander the notes he had made about Mira's past. The map, the story of her lost home, her songs. Slowly, people began to understand her. But Bryn was still suspicious. He watched Mira closely. He told the guards to be ready if she moved suddenly or showed signs of anger. One evening, a loud noise shook the base. A group of unknown ships appeared outside. The base's alarm sounded. Soldiers ran to their posts. Mira stood quietly near. Tom, she looked at the sky with wide eyes. The commander ordered all soldiers to defend the base. But Mira moved to the control room with Tom. She touched the screens and pointed at the ships. Tom asked, "Do you know who they are?" Mira nodded. She made signs with her hands and fingers. She showed images of a group chasing her. They wanted to take her back. They wanted to hurt her. The commander listened carefully. He realized Mira's story was true. The alien Giantess was not only a refugee, but also a target. The ships outside began to fire. The base shook from explosions. Soldiers fought bravely. Mira stepped forward. She touched her chest and then the floor. Her skin glowed softly. The ground trembled. Cracks appeared. Mira used her strength to protect the base. She lifted heavy debris and threw it away from the walls. The soldiers stopped fighting and watched in awe. Mira was not a threat. She was their shield. Bryn frowned but said nothing. The commander nodded. "We fight together now." The battle lasted for hours. Mira stayed strong. Tom stayed near her. They worked as a team. When the last enemy ship left, the base was damaged but safe. Mira looked at Tom and smiled. He smiled back. They had won together. The commander approached Mira and Tom. "You have proven yourself," he said to Mira. "You are not our enemy." Bryn looked away. His face was hard. But even he could not deny the truth. Mira's songs returned to the halls. Her voice healed tired workers. Her presence brought hope. Tom knew this was the start of a new chapter, one where humans and Mira could live in peace. The base was quiet after the battle. Workers repaired broken walls. Machines hummed again. The stars shone bright outside the windows. It was a new day. Mira sat near the open space in the center of the base. She no longer wore chains or sat behind glass. Instead, she was free to move and speak with the workers. Her tall form bent gently to talk to small children. Her silver eyes shone with kindness and hope. Tom stood beside her. He smiled as he watched Mira. He remembered the first time. He gave her bread through the glass. No one else dared to feed the giant alien, but Tom did, and now everything had changed. The commander called a meeting in the main hall. Soldiers, workers, and scientists gathered. The commander spoke clearly. "Today, we start a new chapter. Mira is our friend and ally. We will learn from her. She will teach us about her people and her world." Bryn stood at the back. His face was serious, but he listened quietly. He did not speak. The past was behind them. Tom stepped forward. He looked at Mira and then at the crowd. "She is not a monster. She is like us. She needs kindness and respect." The workers nodded. Many clapped softly. Mira smiled and raised her hand in thanks. Days turned into weeks. Mira shared her songs and stories. She taught the children to sing the melodies of her lost home. Her voice made the base feel warm and alive. Tom and Mira became close friends. They explored the planet together, walking through forests and watching the stars. Mira told Tom about her people's love for music and healing. Tom told Mira about humans and their dreams. One evening, as the sun set behind purple mountains, Mira sang a song for Tom. It was soft and full of hope. Tom listened with tears in his eyes. The base grew peaceful. Soldiers no longer saw Mira as a threat. Workers no longer feared her size. The alien Giantess became part of their lives. One day, a new ship arrived. It carried people from Mira's lost world. They had been searching for her. Mira greeted them with joy. She was no longer alone. The commander watched as Mira reunited with her people. He smiled. The base had changed for the better. Before leaving, Mira turned to Tom. "Thank you," she said with a voice full of warmth. "You were the one who fed me when no one dared. Tom smiled. "And you showed me that kindness can change everything." As Mira left with her people, Tom looked up at the stars. He knew that the bond between humans and Mira was only the beginning of a new future. A future where fear would not stop kindness, where courage would not stop hope. Because one simple act of bread had changed everything.